evening, everybody. Welcome back to Planet Lizzdom. It is Thursday, February 25th, 2021. I can't believe it's already a new year. I'm still wrapping my head around last year, but I'm so happy to see all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who have never tuned into Planet Lizzdom, welcome. This is really a place and a platform for creators, innovators, entrepreneurs, and entertainers to really kind of explore, the world as we know it and how the stage that we live on hasn't disappeared, but it has changed. And, with all of that happening, we really want to showcase how each guest is not only surviving, but thriving and also shining. So this program is designed for you and, a way for you to see that although 2020 was a dumpster fire and 2021 is also looking like it, there are a lot of really wonderful commonalities that we also feel should be featured and explored. And, tonight we have a really great guest that we would like to explore that with you. In fact, I'm going to try something here. This week, we're going to tip our hats to the extraordinary artist, horror writer, and head milliner of Fleur de Paris Atelier in New Orleans, Kimberly Gondrella. So guys, tune in, turn on, and take part. Please give a very warm welcome to the wonderful, the amazing, the fantastic Kimberly Gondrella. Hi, Kim. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? What's up?
Good to see you. Welcome to Planet Lizzdom.
It's good to see you too.
Now, I don't know if that just worked, but I did a really quick feature of your hats and your
that. No, it worked.
It was a lot of fun. I have to say, I've known you for a long time, and it was a lot of fun to creep you on the internet and kind of look at what you do from fresh eyes. For those of you who don't know much about you, how would you describe yourself?
Well, I think I wear many hats. Oh, that was terrible, wasn't it?
No.
My profession is a milliner. That is what I do. I make ultimately fancy ladies bespoke hats and headpieces, and I do that through a shop in New Orleans, Fleur de Paris. I also do work on my own. I do a lot of costuming for my Mardi Gras cruise and things like that. But like you said, I also write fiction, horror, and supernatural fiction. I at one point did burlesque. I have sang in bands, so I try to do as many things as I can to keep myself from getting bored, but also to kind of push the boundaries, because I feel like when you get too comfortable, you start to stagnate a little bit. And I think as a creative person, this, you're always trying to push yourself out of your comfort zone and into new areas to express yourself.
Absolutely. Something that I always want to talk about, and, it's funny because it always feels like I'm saying AC/DC, but I'm really saying, before COVID, after COVID, BC/AC. Picture this time last year, February 25th. What were you doing before COVID? Like, when did lockdown happen for you, and what were you doing before then?
So, a little bit of background. I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana, and one of the single biggest events clearly is Mardi Gras. And not only do I sell an awful lot to people visiting for Mardi Gras, also the marching organizations, for Mardi Gras, but I was at one point captain and founder of a Mardi Gras crew called the Crew of Goddesses, as well as riding in an old uptown Mardi Gras crew called Iris, and also founding a brand new parade called Crew Bohem, which would have been, I believe, this year would have been, I believe, our third year. Last year was our second year. So Mardi Gras is an intensely busy, stressful, but also creative, wonderful, brilliant time for me. So we were just coming out of that high, and then gearing up to another huge run of events in the city. As a milliner, certainly Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown, Easter Parade, and Jazz Fest and French Quarter Fest. So we were really looking forward to really what would have been for myself and the entire city, the money-making time, like the time,
Right.
Like Christmas for every other city. And we locked down completely on the 15th of March. That was my final day at work.
Okay.
And of course, like many of us, I thought it was going to be 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. I was looking forward to a little vacation, really.
Yep.
Little did I know that my entire industry essentially would collapse. Also, majority of New Orleans economy would collapse, and we'd be a year later, really not super optimistic about festival season this year. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I think realistically, you're not going to see large scale city-wide events for another year. You really won't. You'll see private events, but nothing like Jazz Fest or Quarter Fest.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's true. But although something that I did see that you've posted, and I could swear I had uploaded the photos. I feel like such a nerd for not having done so. But I noticed that for Mardi Gras this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, were people decorating their houses like floats so people could travel around in cars to still have that Mardi Gras experience?
Yeah, it was cool. They were calling it a few different things. People were calling it Yardy Gras, which I thought was cute. So there's hashtag Yardy Gras. There's also hashtag house floats if you wanted to go online and look at some of that. It was pretty amazing. I mean, obviously the big uptown mansions that had the budgets, they did some unbelievable things. You know, one with tentacles coming out of all the windows and, you know, all sorts of great huge dinosaurs. And then a lot of my neighborhood, which is a much more working class kind of artsy, like a very artsy young neighborhood. A lot of people in my neighborhood did a lot of their own house props and floats and a lot of really creative, interesting stuff. Mardi Gras is a very satirical. People don't realize, I think, what Mardi Gras means to New Orleans versus what you see on TV with, you know, Girls Gone Wild. But New Orleans is a satirical event, you know, hearkening back to, you know, these sort of traditions all around the world. And so this is the time when people get to mock the establishment and they get to mock some of the ills and the problems that they're facing. So you got to see a lot of really fun, you know, you get to see a lot of really fun things. Like one of them was, you know, swamp, and it was like Trump draining the swamp, and you had all of these, you know, swamp animals and nutria, and nutrias are like large rats, in case you do not know, and possums and alligators. So it's funny. People really do. It's a time when you can be lighthearted about a lot of very serious things, and you know, it serves as like a pressure release valve for people. It really does here. So I was really overjoyed to see so many people doing the house floats and getting that creative fix, and also entertaining their neighbors, you know, people that are stuck here that haven't been able to get out and really do anything for a year. So it was a really beautiful testament to the resilience, I think, of the creative spirit here.
You know, and it's funny, I have to agree that, you know, I'm up here in Toronto, and I felt so excited to look at those photographs that you were taking. So thank you for that, because it really did make me feel like, you know, it's still possible to be creative right now and to have fun. And, you know, Rochelle's saying, ooh, large rats. Chase them away with beads. Actually, something I wanted to show, speaking of Mardi Gras, and I can't remember which crew this was with, but I just fell in love with this when you made it. And again, you are, you know, head milliner at Fleur de Paris, but you're also so creative outside of there. And you made this wonderful crown for your absinthe fairy.
Yes. So traditionally, Mardi Gras crews have a royalty. You know, they elect a royal court. Our royalty is the Imperial Green Fairy. Bohem is the parade. My crew, the goddesses, marches within Bohem. Bohem is the parade itself.
Okay.
And it's an absinthe-inspired, you know, 1920s sort of absinthe-inspired, bohemian, Parisian art sort of inspired crew. And so our royalty is the Imperial Green Fairy, and the fairy is genderless. That was really important to us as an organization, that we didn't have traditional kings and queens, and sort of, you know, continuing with gendered royalty, but also continuing with the notion of royalty at all. We kind of wanted to do something outside of that. So we are governed by the absinthe fairy, essentially, which is our ruler for the parade season. And that was the crown that I made for Vinsantos, who is an artist and musician here. And he actually was on tour with Bauhaus, and I think he was in Toronto the night before our parade and had to fly all the way back on a red eye to New Orleans to be in our parade and then go back on tour. The next day. So he was a real trooper. And Yeah, I made it with the spoons and everything, and that was the crown for our royalty. That was the inaugural year, so 2 years ago. Go ahead.
It was amazing. I mean, again, I know I flashed a very quick slideshow of what you can make, but I mean, here's some beautiful photos of, some of the hats that you have made. And I love to brag about you because, not a lot of people know that you make hats for not only the Kentucky Derby, but you have a very lengthy roster of celebrity clients that you cannot tell me about.
I'll tell you about some of them. I mean, I try to be a little confidential, but
Yeah.
I certainly do brag about some. And it's funny though, because well, you know me. I mean, I'm kind of a goth, right? And I'm also kind of out of touch when it comes to modern fame. But the
Me too.
people that I get really Twitter-pated about and like really googly-eyed about are usually not the people that the majority of people get excited about. Like they want to hear about things like Katy Perry or, you know, and gosh, I don't know, some big Hollywood celebrities. But I mean, the most excited I ever got was when I made a hat for Amanda Palmer when she was getting married to Neil Gaiman in New Orleans. They had a sort of wedding, a ceremony. I don't think it was an official wedding, but they had a ceremony here. And I could not, I mean, I literally was speechless. I was literally speechless. I stood there staring at him like a complete, like an idiot, because I mean, I literally grew up obsessed with the Death comics and obsessed with Neil Gaiman. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of his work. And I just stood there like a crazy person and said nothing the entire time. The salespeople had to deal with it because I was just out there.
Well, at the end of the day, every artist has their artist where, it would just be ridiculous. I truly hope I never meet Dolly Parton because I will be a blubbering idiot. I'll just be standing there grinning like an idiot and probably crying hysterically. And I'll probably just be able to say Jolene and that's it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Sometimes it's a blessing to not be meeting the people that you're that in love with. But also, in my defense, like half the time I don't even know who people are. Like I have to be told later on.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a context thing, I think. Especially being a creative person, it's not at the forefront of your mind necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, if they commission me and it's a very specific situation, then absolutely, But the vast majority of people that are in town filming, just like in Toronto, they don't arrive with their entourage and this whole production. They walk in like a normal person, really dressed down, big sunglasses maybe, and the entire time they're really just trying to engage with you as a normal human being, and that's the best way to go about it. But because of that, I often don't pick up on the cues, and I may not necessarily know that this is like a really, really famous individual until the younger staff members at the shop are like, "Did you know that was Bruno Mars?" And I'm like, "No, I did not."
I think in the end that's a blessing. Honestly,
Yeah.
it just means that you're just cool like that. Whatever, it's all good.
I think, I mean, believe me, I've been watching a lot more TV now since the pandemic, but I was never much of a TV watcher. I just was not really clicked into it. Other than, my little section of subculture, pop culture, that I was involved with.
No, for sure. I have to, I'm so curious being in a pandemic, and lockdown happening again. I mean, for us here in Toronto, we're in phase 2 right now. I don't know if we're going to go back anytime soon. It changes daily, but do you find, are you still getting commissions for hats and other designs right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful at the moment for a lot of our celebrity clients and a lot of our long-term, I hate to say good, every client's a good client, but there are some people that have supported us and supported me over the years consistently. And I am very grateful for them because they are still commissioning and purchasing things for events with a giant question mark hanging over it. I mean, I'm making hats for the Kentucky Derby, and who even knows if it's running, when it's running, if they'll have spectators. It blows my mind that these are people that are still willing to support me because they want to see me exist And I'm really grateful for that. I mean, it's inspiring to me. And it's something that I think we all need to recognize. If there are people out there whose work, is part of our lives, who we love, who enriches us, then we need to, when we can, reach out with our money and reach out with our support in a real way, in an actual way, in any way we can. I mean, even if it's retweeting or sharing, anything we can do. If people have a GoFundMe or they have a Patreon or something, I mean, whatever, buying their work, even in very small ways, every little tiny bit of that helps keep people, if not actually funded and able to feed themselves, it keeps people motivated, because who wants to be a creator, in a vacuum with nothing, nowhere to show and nowhere to, and that's I think the scariest thing for a lot of us is that creative people, we're used to having a stage, like you said, we're used to having a place. Maybe that stage is a store, maybe it's a website, maybe that stage is a literal stage, but to not have that can be really demotivating, and to try to continue to stay creative without that, it's a daily battle, so any little bit of support you can lend to the creative people in your world, I mean, they appreciate it more than you realize.
Absolutely, I have to agree. So, I want to turn everybody to your Etsy, actually. Annabelle Lee Atelier. I wonder if I can actually put both the banner and that up at the same time. Oh, look at that! I can layer. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, if you head over to Etsy at Annabelle Lee Atelier, Kim has some wonderful, wonderful work that's up and available for sale right now as we speak. And you're absolutely right. That kind of support is so motivating, and it's so validating, because it means that somebody in this world loves your work enough to buy it and own it, and wear it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really, really big deal. Actually, it's funny. When I was looking for a hat to wear for our interview today, I kept looking for your hats, and I realized they're still at my ex's place, so I don't have any of them with me. And I was just so embarrassed. I was like, I don't want you to think that I don't love them.
Oh, no.
Appreciate, I mean, I love your hats so much, but in the process of moving, I just haven't had a chance to go back and pick them up. So this was the next best thing I could find, because I bought it the last time I came to visit you from the antique market beside Aunt Tiki's on Decatur. So this is the next best thing. But I mean, I'm not going to lie, I have been looking at your Etsy a lot and trying to decide which hat might be coming into my collection next, because they are wonderful. I mean, I know this is not an everyday hat, but Lord have mercy, I would wear that to the grocery store. Let me tell you.
That was a Crew of Goddesses headpiece, and it actually sold today. In fact,
It
so
did. Congratulations!
pack it up. Yeah, I'll be packing that up. On my Etsy, it's predominantly samples. Everything, which I believe is on sale, but I think you have to actually get to the checkout for the sale to be there. I don't think it shows it. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But it's predominantly headpieces and fascinators and things that are a little easier for me to ship, especially like to Canada, because some of the bigger hats are cost prohibitive for me to be shipping to Canada. But right now it's trying to have a sale, because I'm trying to get rid of as much stuff as I actually can, so that I can clear out my life a little bit, and I can clear out the shop, for perhaps some new merchandise.
Absolutely. Well, and it's always nice to kind of, as you said, clear out the merchandise so you can make room for more, because sometimes even just mentally, you feel like it's all crowded in the room, and as soon as you can let those pieces, or get those pieces out of your head and get them on their way to the world, you can then create more. Make space. That sort of thing. I see there's some hats behind you. Do you want to show us? Yes, they're beautiful.
Yeah, so these are the few that I actually don't have packaged in boxes right now, because I oftentimes have, a little display of, some of the funky stuff I'm working on in the living room. By the way, this is my little studio space in my house, and it's probably the only room in my house right now that isn't an insane disaster. So this is where we are. So this one here was a showgirl. It's kind of hard to see in the light, but it was a showgirl headpiece that I did for Mardi Gras. And then, of course, the goddess headpiece, modeled after the Ziegfeld Follies 1920s look here. And then this one was actually my first Easter parade, New Orleans Easter parade Easter hat that I made for myself for my fancy bougie ride in the Easter parade back when I first moved down here from Toronto. And I was not familiar with the genteel bougie Southern culture like the Easter parade.
I mean, we're getting a lot of compliments and comments here. Your hats are amazing. I don't know if we mentioned it, but you win a lot of awards at the Kentucky Derby every year.
Yeah. I mean, the hats, yeah, they absolutely do. They consistently win. They win or place. And when they win or place in the hat competitions, they end up being usually retained in the Kentucky Derby Museum for a year. That's up to the discretion of the individuals who purchase them, who are wearing them. It's up to them to enter the contest, and it's up to them whether they want to retain the hats in the museum.
Wow, I didn't know that. That is amazing.
That's kind of cool. I make jokes because my hats go to better parties than I do. I mean, I used to be such a club kid. I mean, Liz will attest to this. I think I would go out every night, with the exception of maybe Wednesday. No, I think I even went to Wednesday night at Catch 22. Yeah. I don't know which night I would sleep. Maybe it was, I don't even know. There was one night a week that I would sleep, though. Now I don't. I mean, even pre-COVID, I just don't go out nearly as often as I used to. But my hats definitely get to go to some fancy parties.
Well, and I think it's wonderful that they enjoy a life beyond just the one day. I think that's remarkable, because I find, with a higher end item, because these are couture pieces. Let's be perfectly honest here. Very often they're worn once. Just like a wedding dress. Sometimes they're worn for 8 hours. They're loved. They're adored. They cost a lot of money, and then they end up in a box, hermetically sealed for the rest of the century.
Yes and no. I mean, certainly there are certain clients that that they collect them, and so they'll display them and they'll keep them, and that's that. But for Fleur de Paris, the hats that I designed for Fleur de Paris that are of the couture level and the couture price point, we offer retrimming for your lifetime. Meaning, like, if you bought a hat and you wanted all the decorations changed, I will do that for you as many times as you like. All the hats are sewn; they're not glued, so I can remove all the trimmings and I can put on new trimmings, and this can go on forever and ever, especially if you take good care of your hat. For those people who do want to continue to give it new life, it isn't something that necessarily has to just be put aside. We'll help you get it. I'd love to see my items get as much wear as possible. And if that means restyling them every season, then that's what we do.
That is so cool. Again, I did not know that. That is so neat. Good to know, because I have some hats that I could bring with me.
Yeah, you can ship them back down to me, but if you want to come down, that's also awesome.
Oh, believe me, I fully understand the song. Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans?
Yeah, you're right.
Instant I can hop back on a plane and come back down, I'm there. I mean, that is my second home in a sense. I think I've been there 5 or 6 times now.
Yeah.
I love Nala. I know it like the back of my hand, or at least I like to think I do.
It doesn't change that much, so that's the one lovely thing about New Orleans, is that it's very slow to change.
That's true. Well, something that I noticed, and I'm kicking myself for not uploading these photos, but I think back in the spring, you had been cycling around the French Quarter, around Frenchman Street, and you took a lot of these photos of the boards that were put up over top of the bars, and all of the art that was being made on top of these boards. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool, because I haven't seen a lot of that in Toronto. Maybe it's happening elsewhere in the country, but I really noticed a very artistic happening in the Quarter from your photos.
Yeah, that was in the real beginning, that's when we were in, I mean, lockdown, like I suppose what y'all were dealing with again a couple weeks ago. I mean, we're talking nothing was allowed to be open with the exception of like essential services like grocery stores. So both my husband and I were not working. We were not able to be working. So the one beautiful thing about that was that we had this time that we don't generally have together to actually ride around and experience New Orleans in this completely different way. No tourists, nobody around, nothing, nothing open, but the weather was beautiful. It was actually one of the prettiest springs and summers I think we've ever had here, honestly.
Really?
And there's so many great bike trails. You can ride up the Greenaway up to City Park. You can go on the Crescent Park along the river. The French Quarter was empty, which is surreal. And of course, open containers are legal here. So all you got to do is just get your ice chest on your bike and just ride around drinking your beer, your wine, and get a little, speaker. And it was a great social distancing thing because, I mean, it was a ghost town. There's nobody around, and you can be nice and distant on a bicycle, and you get your exercise and your sunlight. And it was really cool to see all the artists who had basically, put up installations on all of the particle board and plywood that a lot of businesses had put up, especially bars on Frenchmen, because of course they have liquor in there. And if there's nobody there, I think the fear was, there wasn't any looting or anything like that at all. But I think there was concern at first. They didn't know how it was going to be handled. And of course, hurricane season coming into summertime, a lot of people board up their businesses anyway, in advance of storms coming in. So these boards ended up staying up for a lot longer than people thought. And I think a lot of the local artists and neighbors just decided to take them as canvases. And what was lovely is that, and I wish I could remember some of the names of some of the artists, but the businesses that had these plywood pieces then got to take them down and sell them. I mean, they could use that. It was actually almost like a donation that the artists had given these businesses art now that they were able to turn around and actually sell.
Oh, I just got chills about that. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. It was beautiful. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was really just amazing how everybody in the community really stepped up. I mean, it was really life affirming, honestly, to see how everybody really banded together and tried to make the best out of a really trying situation.
Have you noticed a shift in people's moral compass and their values since this has started?
It's really hard to say because I think there has been a bit of a reckoning with people everywhere, and a reevaluation of what is important and what is meaningful and what is superfluous. We've all, I think, learned how to live on a lot less than we thought we could. Realizing that I have a lot of unnecessary expenses and habits and things that it's better to tone that down.
Yeah.
But I do think that really more than anything, it's given people an opportunity to really be themselves and to shine. I don't think it's changed people. I think it's just kind of magnified them, if that makes any sense. Because New Orleans has always been a very community-based city. Again, it's not something I think people understand unless they are here often or they live here, because they see this one side of it that is a very media side of it. But all the organizations, the Mardi Gras associations, are all social aid organizations. The charity work is a big deal. It's a very Catholic city, actually, and that is very important to people. Big families, close-knit families, multi-generational households. I mean, there's a lot of things about the city that people don't see that are very specific to here, and also very specific to other, highly Catholic and, even Latin American cities. You know what I mean? That gets lost in translation, I think. When people think of New Orleans, they don't really understand. People that are from here rarely leave. They are still living down the street from their mama, even sometimes in the same house. Two sides of, they call it a shotgun double, where you have two sides. It's one singular house divided into two long homes, and those are usually multi-generation families that inhabit that. Grandma on one side and the kids and grandkids on the other.
Wow, that's amazing. Like it's
Yeah, so I think that a lot of that, it's become more obvious, but all of that community mindedness and togetherness, people setting up little free libraries, people setting up community fridges. I mean, all sorts of things. People setting up, food delivery chains. I mean, it was really powerful to see. But I don't think that it's something that was new. I think it was just something that got more attention.
okay. Well, I mean, I'm very glad to see that something like that does exist. It's funny. I always talk about how when I was a kid growing up in the '70s and the '80s, these are the community-based things that I would see.
Mhm.
Neighbors dropping off a cup of sugar to each other, or lending out their lawnmower, or just doing all these things to help each other. And I felt like maybe because I grew up and I moved to the city, I didn't see that as much. Maybe I just didn't know my neighbors as well. But I know in my neighborhood, it has kind of really blossomed like that. At least I'm noticing that since I moved here. People, again, we have little public libraries at the end of people's yards. We have curbside drop-offs. Like what do you call it? When you just put it on the curb alert, pick it up. It's free.
Yeah, yeah. Or like little free
That's free.
box. I think they have a little site
Yeah.
here, little free box.
We have a little Facebook group for our street. So sometimes somebody will say, you know what, I baked too much banana bread. If you want it, I'll leave it on the curb for you. Or like I'll leave it on the porch, sorry, and you can come pick it up. Just full little stuff like that. Um, Now, you guys are, I think I am correct in assuming, are you in a lockdown right now as well?
So it's so convoluted, and I
Yeah.
never know what's going on from one day to the next because Orleans Parish, is not always in step with the rest of the state. When you just like Ontario, you have New Orleans, you have Orleans Parish, which is the city, and then you
Mhm.
have the parishes surrounding it, which are the suburbs like Jefferson. And then you have a lot of rural, right? So the issues surrounding all the different areas are not the same as what we're dealing with in New Orleans. So the regulations have been parish by parish.
Okay.
And Orleans Parish at the moment is back open for bars and indoor dining, I think to 25% capacity. But we were completely closed for Mardi Gras. No, there was actually no alcohol sales at all, even in the local like depanier, like corner stores. Um, in the French Quarter at all for Mardi Gras because they were trying to avoid people congregating in street
Okay, that's
parties and block parties. So that was like I think 2 weeks of that, or at least a week. But before that, we were open to 25% capacity. But it goes back and forth. I mean, they chart the percent positives and things like that. And if we don't retain a certain level, then we go back into lockdown. It's kind of like, you know, the children get punished if they can't act right.
no, totally. And it's funny, I don't know. It's weird for me to say, but I've almost gotten used to this lockdown life. And going out and then going into lockdown again, going back out a bit, going back into lockdown a bit. I know for myself, I have different plans for this kind of time period in my life. Like I'm in lockdown, so I have work that I want to do. Um, you are a writer, and I want to talk about that as well. What have you been working on, and what do you plan on working on in the future? Because you are going to have different periods of time where you have a little more at your disposal to do that.
Yeah, so I'm one of these sort of type A people, and I think I procrastinate by starting other projects, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I procrastinate finishing one project to start another project. So my biggest downfall is I need to finish things. So at the moment, I mean, I have been putting some short stories up on Amazon, self-publishing. I've been publishing an anthology, plan to submit some more short stories to some anthologies. But what I'm working on at the moment, I am trying to edit my novel that I have completed, that I'm still in the editing process. I'm also working on a completely unrelated novel that I hope will be part of a series, Liz, that I'd like you to be involved with, which is a dystopian superhero kind of thing that is based on, this is going to sound so wackadoodle, but based on a series of dreams I had about us, all of us, our little gang of crazy friends, when I was living in one of the creepy haunted houses. I think it was Mackenzie Crescent, when I was living there, and I had this dream series and always wanted to write it down, and for some reason it just called to me during the lockdown to start writing it down. Maybe pandemics bring out dystopian science fiction, who knows, but so that, yeah, it seemed like the right time. So
why.
I started working on that, and I'm nearing completion of the first book. I'd like it to be a series, and then there are a couple other smaller projects that I'm kind of, I'm trying to write a short story about the house on Grange Street.
Oh my gosh, the house.
That was Amityville. That place is creepy.
Oh, you will get a full novel out of that house. Oh my god.
I know. Trying to make it a short story might actually be a little ambitious to kind of consolidate all that down, but I promise everyone involved in the true story that it will be highly fictionalized. No, people's identities will be protected. No real names will be used.
Well, listen, I want to brag about your writing. If you guys head to Amazon, Kim has a heart-shaped box available on Amazon. I believe you can purchase it for Kindle. It's on
Kindle Direct.
Yeah. And this is a short story, correct?
Yeah, the pieces on Amazon are all short stories. The larger works are still in the process of editing. I also wanted to mention that I had a really great story published in the Dark Rainbow anthology.
That's right, with the Great Lakes Horror Company.
Yeah, that was a good one. And Andrew Robertson was my editor, and he's the best editor ever. I needed to shout that out.
And it was called Dark Rainbow.
Dark Rainbow. It's a queer erotic horror anthology.
I'm in real time typing this out so that people can see it.
Yeah, I just wanted to show that because I thought it was a wonderful project with some wonderful pieces and wonderful writers involved. And like I said, Andrew was so fantastic as my editor, and kind of walking me through the process, as it was my first, legit publishing scenario, and he was really gentle with me, which was great. He didn't spank me too hard.
No. No, and he is also another amazing writer who I'm sure I will be speaking with at some point soon. But I had a chance to read what you had submitted, and it is fantastic. It's absolutely, your writing is very, very, what's the word? All I can say is awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's a terrifying endeavor. It really is, because I feel like I pour so much more of my own self into it than, certainly I pour myself into my hat, so don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of confessional, I think, involved in writing, even writing fiction. You'd have a tendency to write yourself into it in a lot of ways you don't expect.
No, absolutely. Oh, yeah. We have Karen here talking about the Grange house. She remembers.
Yeah.
She remembers. Hey, guys, before I forget, if you have any questions for Kimberly Gondrella, please shoot a message in the comments section. She doesn't bite, or do you? I don't know. You're a horror writer and a hat maker. You can do really whatever you want.
I live in New Orleans.
This is true. Something else I wanted to talk about, because at the beginning of the holiday season, I'd been laid off, and you and I had a really great conversation about hustle. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about how something coming out of this pandemic is that we're really learning how to branch out and do different things. And something that you started doing this year is your witch moon. I guess would you call it a clothing wholesaler, or?
So no, it's I call it a curated web store. So
Okay.
I do have some pieces of my own work on it, but it is predominantly pieces that I've curated from other designers. And it's so you can order and we ship to you directly. I believe I do offer free shipping to Canada. There's some coupon codes on the main page that you can look at. But yeah, I mean it's goth. I'm trying for a little more. It's more I would call it grown up goth. You
Okay.
know, the sort of thing where there are pieces that you could certainly wear to the club, but also pieces that you could wear to the office or wear to a dinner without sacrificing your dark aesthetic. But, you know, knowing that, you know, there's a point where perhaps, you know, the PVC mini dress and harness combo is not going to be as useful to you when you're, you know, when you are a little older, you know, and you're not in the, you know, at the clubs as often as you maybe once were.
That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, with all of these wonderful pieces from Witch Moon, you know, you're certainly ready for anything paranormal that could come your way. Question here: have you ever experienced any crazy hauntings in New Orleans?
So, you know, I regretfully say no. And I know this is going to come as a huge shock to y'all. You know, certainly I've been to places where hauntings were supposedly occurring. I have one of the creepiest, honestly, places I ever went to was what was it called? The St. Vincent Guest House, uptown, which was an old children's asylum, children's orphanage. And
Oh,
I went to a really weird party there. And that place was creepy. I mean, but that said, there was no specific incident,
mhm.
unlike, for instance, the things that have occurred in Toronto. I feel as though I have been in 3 legitimately haunted houses in Toronto, 2 of which I lived in, and with, I mean, actual recorded paranormal experiences, and it was all in Toronto, which is funny because you think of New Orleans as this haunted mecca, and maybe it is. I mean, I certainly think there are a lot of great stories here because of the age and also the very traumatic history that the city has. It has, of course,
Yep.
created really exciting stories. You know, I mean, the LaLaurie Mansion, for instance, is one of the most profoundly disturbing, haunting backstories you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, but if I mentioned, but Nicolas Cage owned the LaLaurie Mansion for a time being when he lived here,
Mhm.
and you know, testified to me how profoundly haunted the place was. He even, I don't know if he was kidding or not, but even said that he could barely spend a night there because it was so freaky. So he spent, I think his alternate home was on Esplanade, so it wasn't that far. So that
Okay.
is where he stayed. Meanwhile, he, I think, would entertain at the LaLaurie Mansion, likely for the creep factor. But you know, a lot of people who have resided there have not resided there long. I mean, it's a place that definitely freaks you out. But I've never been inside because Nicholas and I were not tight like that. We just hung out. No, I'm kidding. He was a client of mine, and he was wonderful. I never saw a negative side to him
Yeah.
personally. But yeah, I would have loved to have gone out and hung out though and checked it out, done some paranormal research.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And it's so funny. I've been such a nerd. I'm more interested in his place on Esplanade because I love that street. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, Esplanade is like a super underrated street. Like everybody thinks of St. Charles, and St. Charles is gorgeous. I mean, don't get me wrong, all those mansions, those huge antebellum mansions are pretty cool. But Esplanade is just has this really weird vibe. I just really love the vibe because it has the neutral ground, it has the big oak trees and the whole thing, you know, the canopy of trees. I always wanted to have a croquet tournament in the on the neutral ground. The neutral ground, by the way, y'all, is like a median between, you know, the 2 sides of the street. Here they call that the neutral ground. It's usually a grass median, often with trees and possibly a pathway.
Oh
But
yeah.
I always wanted to have a croquet tournament there. I might still do that if they ever let us
Oh my
leave.
god. That would be so much fun.
I think it would be fun, you know. Just try not to knock the balls into any cars. You know, they frown upon that.
Heather's New Orleans style.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm trying to think, is there anything that we have not covered that you want to talk about? This is your time and your opportunity. You know,
I don't know. I mean, when lockdown first happened, I was making some YouTube videos and stuff, and I might try to get back into some of that. And I was doing it really more for my own sense of sanity
yeah,
because, I mean, I'm a social person. I have a very social job, and to be removed from that, well, in some ways really nice and relaxing was also very difficult, not having that sort of sounding board. So I was doing that, and I really enjoyed that. And it was something that really scared me. Actually, it took me out of my comfort zone. The one thing that I'm not really good at is being on camera. I have done it many times. I've been on the news, I've been on TV, quite a few times in a professional context. And every time I feel awkward, I feel stupid, I feel like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where to look. I think I sound insane. And so it was a fear. It was a real fear. And so doing these videos has given me a lot more confidence. The same way that doing burlesque did back when I was doing that. And I started doing that because I was feeling old, and I was feeling like I wasn't the hot young thing that I used to be, hitting 30. Now I'm well beyond that. But it really gave me a sense of power over my body and over my own image. And I don't think people really understand just how powerful that experience can be, especially for women who are getting older and are told that they're not as desirable, as they get older, to reclaim that image for yourself, not regardless of what other people think, but to inhabit sexy in your own self and know that in your own mind is
yeah,
kind of a big deal. And so doing things like this, doing the little, YouTube videos has really allowed me to kind of express and to find a comfort with my own visage and my own presence that I didn't have before. And so I think all I'm trying to say with that is this is a really great time to do something that you don't want to do or something that you don't have to do,
yeah,
that you want to do, but you also don't want to do, but not something you have to do, right? Like so much of our day normally is spent doing things that we don't want to do, but we have to do.
yeah,
And right now, though, we have some space, right? Like when we were talking about hustle before, it's not about, constantly like this notion of having a side hustle and this and that and not ever stopping. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is realizing that we don't have to work for a living necessarily, and to free ourselves from that and have enough confidence in our own skills and abilities to find avenues where we can possibly have more agency in our life, more agency in how we achieve financial stability. Because I think we're starting all to realize that the regular job thing is not working for a lot of people. It's
yeah.
either not working for them to pay their bills, they're having to get second jobs, or it's not working in so far as commuting and having to go sit in an office space for 8 hours and scroll the internet because you're being paid to be there, not really to do anything. Or it's not working in the sense that it's strangling us creatively, or we don't feel empowered. So I think this whole reset, like they're talking, that's a really big part of it, for us to kind of realize that we have a lot more control over our lives than we realize, but we have to take it. And it's not easy to do. It's super scary. I don't know if I would be able to do half of the things that I have done this past year, without the pandemic, because I had no impetus to, right? I could just sit and be comfortable in my job, going in every day, and it wasn't always 100% satisfying, but that's okay. You know what I mean? It was stable. And this has forced me out of that comfort. And as terrifying as that is, in the end, the reward is monstrous. It's huge reward.
No, absolutely. I mean, Kim, I have to say, again, I have watched you grow so much over this past year, and I can't celebrate that enough with you. I think, you're such a dynamic force to be reckoned with. And I always think to myself, if Kim can do it, I can do it. Very often I'll have those days where I've fallen on my face and I just can't make it out of bed or whatever. And I'll I'll go to your Facebook or, a few other people's Facebook that I really admire, and I'll look at what you're doing, and I'll remind myself that, it's about enjoying the journey, not the destination only.
Mhm.
And that, growth is not supposed to be easy. It is supposed to be painful, and you are supposed to be uncomfortable, and things are
Yeah.
go up in your face. Like, that's just the way it goes, and I'm so happy to see you thriving as you are right now, really and truly. I hope that you continue to do your YouTube posts,
I should see some more. I know I've been slacking on that, but
you know what, though, it comes and it goes. Life happens, and that's something that I've noticed, that this pandemic has really put that on its ear. Life happens. You have to be flexible, have the direction, steer your ship there, but understand that storms are going to come and go. There are going to be waves, and you may veer left, you may veer right for a little bit, but just keep going forward.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the time. I can't believe it's gone by so fast.
I know.
How did an hour go by? It just did. I truly hope that I can have you back on this time next year to see where you're at. See what's going on. Guys, I want you all to check out everything that Kim is doing. Not only Annabelle Lee Atelier, I can't even say it fast enough. Go to witchwomanclothing.com. Get yourself something fabulous and grown up and goth and fabulous. And, go to Amazon. Get yourself a short story from Kindle. Do all the things. Check out Fleur de Paris hats as well. I can give you all the links if you didn't get any of them. In the meantime, Kim, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I will see you very, very soon. And I'm gonna sign off now. So don't go away. I'm just gonna
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
My pleasure, Kim. I love you to bits, and I wish you all the best. And I will definitely see you very, very soon.
Absolutely. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Guys, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us tonight. I know it's weird finding it, a time every week now to tune in, but I really hope that, Planet Lizzdom is becoming a destination for you guys as well. This show is about you, it's for you. And, I always encourage everybody, tune in, turn on, and, take part, because at the end of the day, life is what you make it, and what you choose to do with it is really kind of, the ball's never been more in your court. So guys, I will see you this time next week. In the meantime, be well, stay safe, and I will see you soon.